Hello. So I noticed after having heard someone talk about personality, in specific the Big Five personality, that there is a difference between a motivation to read and a reason to read. Uh, a reason to read might be like you have a class or you want to learn a particular skill, but a motivation to read might be different. That is, there could be different motivations to have the reason to want to learn a skill or even to take a class to read a book. And I thought it was very interesting to apply these different types of motivations to reasons to read. Or in other words, what are the motivations to read, not just the reasons to read. To start off, I'm going to use like the Big Five personality model, which is neuroticism, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and agreeableness. It's these five domains that they talk about. And each one of those domains has a motivational aspect, or there's basically differences that motivate people who score higher or lower inside these domains, or these fundamental axioms of personality. The first one is agreeableness. If you're someone who scores really high in agreeableness, you might read for reasons that have to do with like social harmony, or pleasing another person, or taking care of another person, or showing interest in another person. And so you might actually read something like psychological counseling books, ethics books, or communication books, any kind of books that you would read that would benefit social harmony or you taking care of another person. Whereas somebody who scores really low in disagreeableness, and I've ran into quite a few of these people because I've had the both unfortunate and fortunate experience of debating people who have fringe opinions on the internet. And there are some people who will read, let's say, like Russian history books or World War II history books, or let's say extremist philosophers, to have really, really disagreeable opinions because they know that the next time they come across somebody who has a certain type of belief, they want to be able to destroy that belief with a bunch of facts and evidence or philosophy that they learned from a certain type of book. So someone who's agreeable might want to read books to help someone, and someone who's disagreeable might want to read books to fact check someone. An extroverted person might read a book to get approval from others. And I remember in university, now that I'm thinking about this, I can reconceptualize some of the experiences I had in university where there were students who would read books to get approval from their professors, not because they had an interest in the subject, but because the professors had a particular meaning, let's say in economics. And so the students would pick up certain economics books and read them and then speak about them to the professors. So the motivation there was approval from another person. Another extroverted reason to read might be that you want to have approval inside of a group. It's very popular if you, let's say, talk about Marx inside leftist groups, or Ebola inside right-wing, like not authoritarian, but anarchic groups. They might really like that you have read Ebola. And so you could read these authors to get approval from others. Another motivation to read is neuroticism. And if you're someone who worries about something a lot, then you might pick up a book to assuage that worry. So if you're someone, let's say, who you worry about taxes and how all the different taxes you have to pay because you have, let's say, businesses and houses and so on and so forth, then you might pick up a tax book to become less anxious about your tax worries. Or if you're someone who doesn't make enough money, you might pick up financial literacy books or self-help books on finance to make more money. So your motivation to read there is a bit of an uncertainty. If you're someone who's conscientious, one of the reasons why I like to read finance and law is not because I actually have a particularly rich passion for them, but because I believe I have duties to manage my money wisely, and also to make sure that I'm not violating laws that could harm my financial well-being or personal well-being, right? So that's actually one of the main motivators for me to read law books or finance books, is because I score really high on conscientiousness. At least when I took the test, I scored really high on conscientiousness. Maybe I'm more of a disagreeable person or less conscientious of a person now. I don't know. I have to check. But so conscientious being like discipline, or like a sense of duty, pursuing things, taking on responsibility. That's what conscientiousness is. And then another reason, or the last motivation that I should say, to read books would be openness to experience. And I think a good example of this might be, even for someone like myself, I read across many disciplines, whether it's biology, whether it's law, whether it's philosophy, whether it's economics, whether it's math. I've even studied marketing. I've jumped between a lot of different disciplines because I'm really interested in the various models that people have about the nature of the world. I'm someone who's pretty sold on skepticism. I don't believe anybody has a certain truth, like an objective truth, whatever that actually means. When someone tells me what it means, I'll be able to tell you what it means. But I think everybody has axioms, and these axioms are unjustified. And so I think it's very entertaining and exciting to jump between the different worldviews of thinkers. Like, in fact, recently I was reading this book by a nutritionist who had very similar conceptions of nutrition to financial accountants, how they consider financial accounting. They had different terms, different language, but like he was talking about like nutrition, carbohydrate burning per unit of energy per carbohydrate consumption versus unit of energy per fat consumption. And that's something you would do in financial accounting. So for every dollar of debt you take on, what is the per debt interest rate you pay? What is the asset to equity ratio? So like how many units of equity do you have per units of assets? There's a lot of similar thinking here, and I thought that was really fascinating. So point being is, I'm rambling now, there are different motivations to read, and I think you can consider your own motivations to read if you look at, you don't have to look at the big five. There are different theories of personality that have different ways of conceptualizing motivation. I just think the big five is probably one of the more robust ways of conceptualizing motivation. And these can be different than the reasons you have to read, right? The reasons can be reason A, but what motivates reason A can be motivator 1, motivator 2, or motivator 3, right? These mutually exclusive motivators can have the same reasons being supported by them. So that being said, let me know what reasons or motivations you have to read. I'd be curious to hear. I think I largely fall on conscientiousness and openness to experience. But with that being said, let me know what you have to think about this. I'd be curious to see what you have to say. And bye-bye for now.